Tonight, we are into a great conversation of the art of speaking into existence, an author's journey from the projects to prosperity. And tonight, Glenn Bowie is with us. He is the founder and CEO of Glenn Bowie Speaks, with over 30 years of sales experience in the wireless communications industry. Glenn has earned over 200 professional sales awards of recognition over the last 3 decades. He is now paying it forward for the masses and his own diverse company, Glenn Bowie Speaks Incorporated. By the way, GBS is a motivational, inspirational company that helps business and organizations reach their highest potential and to dream big. We're going to talk about that tonight, by the way. And Glenn is the author and keynote speaker, trainer, and consultant, and so much more. And without any further ado, we are going to bring Glenn into center stage, add him to the spotlight. And here he comes. Glenn, great to see you tonight. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Rich. Good to see you. How's everything going?
It's a beautiful night here in Washington, D.C. And I know you're in another part of the country. Where are you located tonight?
I'm in Pasadena, California.
See, we're coast to coast. We do it all here.
I love it.
Glenn, it's great to have you with us. And you come out of the communication industry. Before we get into your book writing and your journey, it's interesting. You and I had a great conversation about the transformation of communication industry. Did you ever think, with all your years, that we'd be sitting on a video conference call doing shows like this in the new communication world that we live in?
I never would have dreamed it in all my life. This is just, you never know where life ends up taking you. And if you just keep an open mind and go with the flow and always be in action to make something happen, you never know where you're going to end up. So I'm just blessed and grateful to be here with you today, Rich.
What was the biggest change you've seen? Because again, you've been Nextel and everyone else, but what's one of the biggest changes you saw in that communication industry?
Well, I tell you, I started out in the paging industry before there was even cell phones. And back
Pages.
then I didn't even have gray hair back then, believe it or not. But I've seen the whole industry go through the changes from 2G to 5G and so forth. And I knew that speed was going to rule the world one day. And but the key is speed with accuracy is really the key. So I've seen it all, and I've really enjoyed the process. And now I'm paying it forward with my own company, Glenn Bowie Speaks.
So let's start there for a second. What was your journey? Just give a little capsule, because you're going from a rough life, it sounds like, to one of prosperity and big dreams. So take us through some of that journey.
Sure. Well, growing up in the projects, I have 2 older brothers and a sister, and I'm the youngest of 4. And my mother was the inspiration in my life. She's the one that told us that you can do anything in life, just believe that you can make it. Faith was important in our life. And most importantly, my father, unfortunately, was an alcoholic. So my parents divorced when my mother was pretty much pregnant with me. And so my mom had to step into action to make something happen. And she was my inspiration growing up as a kid, because, she's the one that instilled in us that hard work, dedication, and faith, and just being true to who you are as a person, and just believe that you can make it no matter what. And that's how it all started back in those days.
So when you were going through that, and again, now you got to look back on that, was there any glimmer of, wow, this is going to be an amazing journey?
Well, I felt it in my spirit it was going to be, because I started out with the vision board. And my mother was the one that inspired me to tear out magazine articles out of newspapers and all that stuff. So periodicals, and I started putting them up on the wall. And then I started thinking that, one day I want to dream. And that's what started my dreaming big. And part of my dream was going to be able to take care of her one day for all the sacrifices that she made for her kids. I wanted to be able to replay that back to her.
So when it comes to authors, a lot of authors are dreamers, they're creatives. Do you think dreamers is one of those unspoken hero parts of being an author, that you really need to be that dreamer, to speak it, to write it, to bring it into existence?
Oh, without a doubt. To speak it, to dream it, to pray upon it, to meditate on it, to go for walks, to spend some quiet time alone, to find mentors and people that can inspire you, and then you collaborate on that. once you find someone who can see your vision and your dreams to help make it come true.
So let's talk about some of those co-dream makers, because I know through my life, even being in broadcasting, I had a lot of fear. I had my own mind. I had naysayers around me. There were people that were like, you want to do what? Did you have much of that when you began to speak it and talk about it and dream into the big dream?
Sure. I mean, we all think about different fears that we have in our life. And of course, you always have that little bug in the back of your ears saying, I don't know if you can do it. I don't know if you can make it. I don't know if you can overcome and persevere. But I tell you, that was the key to my life, was using obstacles that were dead ends. I would use them as fuel to light the burning flame inside of me, Rich, that I could believe that I could just make it no matter what. And that's why I was able to overcome and persevere along with my faith.
So how did you really do that? That sounds great. And I'm sure people are going, wow, but how did you really mentally, emotionally, physically break through those doors and just go forward?
Well, when someone tells me no, I just feel like that's just fuel to figure out, to get them to say yes. And so that was always my philosophy in life, is that whatever you believe in, that you can make it. And it's just something deep inside your soul and in your spirit, the confidence that you can make it by having those vision boards and seeing and believing that I could be that person one day. I could be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, or an athlete or a baseball player or whatever it was that I was visualizing as a kid, seeing myself out of our current situation. But my mother had always instilled us that, even though we get out of the projects one day, but never forget where you come from. And so it was just something that was deep inside my soul, that it comes out of you once you spend some quiet time alone and you get to know who you are as a person, builds that self-confidence.
Well, and I love the attitude of kind of defy the odds of, you said no, I said yes. I dare you to say no again, because I'm going to go do it anyways. There is that kind of bravado a little bit of saying, watch me. Looking back on my life, my mom and dad reminded me years ago, just a couple of years ago, that with my speech impediment, they found me in the basement talking to my toys, pretending like I was a keynote speaker, public speaker. And I had totally forgot about that. Is there anything like that with you, that recollecting, going back, you realize you were vision casting, you were really pulling off the dream board and stepping into it even at a young age?
Yeah, because I tell you, it all started with people, mentors that just believed in me. I'd sit out on the porch and watch the neighbors play baseball catch, and they would tell me, oh, you're too little to play baseball, you're too young. And I said, just give me a chance. And that's all in life you really need, is just someone to give you a chance and give you an opportunity to show and prove that you can make it, and just work hard and just believe that you can do it. Sometimes you walk into doors that might be closed, but you just keep knocking, and you just keep going, and you just never stop. And you just, I've knocked on over 200 doors when I got into sales, just to get my first opportunity, but I never gave up.
When you transition from sales and the other levels that you've been in, you've had a great business career, but when you stepped into writing, was that one of the things that was on the vision board as a kid, or is that a new dream that came up, like, I'm going to write a book?
That's a good question. That was a vision that I didn't really have. I spoke at a keynote speech for about 5,000 students at the LA Job Corps downtown at the Los Angeles Convention Center. And after I got finished, a student walked up to me and he said, "Where's your book?" And I thought, oh, I need to write a book. So that was the beginning of it, that kind of said, well, maybe I'll start journaling and start writing things down and see where it goes. And I kept journaling and writing it down. And next thing I know, I started getting momentum and it started feeling good. And then I realized that, I had a story to tell.
So that's really amazing that a child asked for it and almost expected it to be there, because most speakers do often have a book to go with their talk, but that was not the case for you. So take us to that journey from writing notes, scribbling, journaling, to beginning to flesh out a book. How long of a journey was that for you?
Well, I'll tell you, it was a 4-year journey. I met with a reporter back in Peoria, Illinois, my hometown, And we went to lunch and we started chit-chatting and having a great lunch conversation. And I was telling her what I was working on and the vision that I had. And in the middle of our lunch, she stops, Rich, and she says, "That's it." And I said, "What?" She goes, "That's it." And I'm like, "Well, what?" And she goes, "You're a storyteller." And so that really inspired me to realize that, hey, I'm onto something here. Let me get more focused and get this book completed and get the right team behind me and the right, people to collaborate with and so forth. So that really was the inspiration, because sometimes, Rich, other people see things in you that you don't see in yourself.
So there's a great phrase I've heard, and I cannot remember who to officially give first credit to it, but that phrase of a mentor or a teacher who turns around and says, "I see in you." That's a powerful phrase for someone else to speak in your life and to do that. It sounds like that's kind of what happened to you.
Definitely. I couldn't believe it. And then it inspired me and it motivated me. And it gave me that inspiration to pursue it even further and to get it done. Because, as you're writing, there's it's up and down, and it was fun. It was a fun journey, that period of time. And COVID was out, and, we had a lot of downtime, and the book was released and published in 2020 during the COVID. And so a lot of people were at home, and yeah, so that turned out to be a perfect timing.
What was your process again? Because you're journaling, you kind of have all these different things all on paper everywhere. Probably, how did you bring it together? Because I know a lot of writers do that. They have pieces here and pieces here, but then what is that cohesive glue? Did you go through that part of the journey?
I sure did, Rich. I used a tape recorder at first. I spoke into a tape recorder, and I thought that would be just to get it out, not to be perfect, not to try to be the perfect writer or anything. Just get it out, get the story out. But the timelines were the ones that really took the longest for me, was because I started from my journey from as a child all the way up to today. So I had to get what year was that? What month was that? So that was a part that took really the longest, but it was very inspiring. And I had to go back and do some research on exactly what time period that was.
So was that hard? Because I know a lot of authors do that same thing, and dates and people move when you start digging around. Was that a fun journey or a hard journey for you?
It was a fun journey, really. It really was, because I went back and thought about, different periods of my life, and I had to just sit quietly and meditate and think about where was I during that period of time. So I try to put myself, even as a writer, I try to take myself back to that period of time of where I was. And that's why I think the book felt more authentic and it felt more real to me, and things just started coming out more and more as I would put myself in that period of time.
Did you visualize it? Could you taste it, see it, sense it? Because I'm a very sensory person. So as I'm working on my book right now, I am going back and it's like, wow, there it is again. I can really experience it. Did you have some of that emotional connection to it?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, it was very emotional because I thought about, all the people that helped me and inspired me along the way. I've had a successful career and a successful life, but I think about the people that helped me. I couldn't have done it without the help of others, Rich. So I think about the editors of the book and Blair Underwood, the Hollywood actor who wrote the foreword to the book and so forth. And I dedicated the book to my mother. So all these people that came into my life, really, really made a difference. And having great editors made the whole difference in the book.
So you are not a writer, author by trade. You're a businessman, communication guy. So when you got into that point where you needed the editor, if you put ideas together, you fleshed it out, you went as far as you could, and you finally said, "Take my baby." What was that moment like to hand it over to someone else to do the next level for you?
Oh man, I tell you, it was incredible. It was a relief.
Oh, really?
It really was a relief because I was stuck for a period of time, and I thought it was ready to be released and it wasn't quite there yet. And, part of me is kind of a perfectionist to a certain degree. And I wanted to be well received because, the fact that Blair Underwood put his name on the book, I wanted to represent him and I wanted to represent my family and my mom and everyone, I wanted to represent my hometown. They've been very supportive the people from Peoria. And there's an old saying: if it plays in Peoria, it'll play anywhere. So I'm blessed and honored to say it's playing really well in my hometown in Peoria, Illinois.
And we're going to get to the Blair story because I love your Blair story on this, but I want to right now, as they began to edit, move pieces, they said this story doesn't play as well. When they began to do some of that, and you've been invested in these stories and you relived them, was that hard to say, let it go? Did you fight for a couple stories that you didn't get in?
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a couple of them I did fight for because they were saying, I don't think the audience is going to resonate with that particular quote or that saying. I'm not sure if they're going to get it, because you have a variety of different people going to be reading your book from all different walks of life. And I thought, well, it's who I am as a person. So I did make some sacrifices along the way, and it turned out to be really well because the most important that I learned was what's in it for the reader? What is the reader going to get out of the book? And so I kind of took it more off of myself and put it more into making sure that the reader is going to get something out of it.
So that's really interesting to hear you say that, because then you have a choice between you keep fighting for it and you letting go. What can you share with other people about that experience? Because I know writers really struggle. They're like, that story is pitiable, and they go, throw that out, edit it, delete it. What can you do to other authors here to help them understand that is important to have that rub, and also you need to sometimes let that rub go?
That's a good point. I think, writing a book is kind of like sales in a sense. I had to put my sales cap on to fight for the things that I really wanted in there. And I thought, well, how about if we reword it? How about if we change it around a little bit? It's like sales. You can say a certain word and it's a fear-producing word, or you can make it a comfortable word that everyone can agree with and can understand more of where you're coming from. So that was the compromise that I had with some of the editors of the book, but they did a great job. They really did. But looking back, I think I've got everything in there that I wanted. There might have been one or two things that I'll probably have to save for the next book that I'm working on. There we go. And bring it back. But for the most part, it worked out really well.
Because I know in film, there's always stuff on the edit for. There's always stuff, and you either add it in the director's version or you can go make another film out of it.
That's true.
When it comes to the Blair Underwood story, and again, I do want everyone to hear this because we all know the forwards, the back dust jacket, those things are lead magnets. And some people are really blessed. They have amazing people, and some people really struggle with getting that right lead magnet. Blair is a great actor, comedian. Tell us how that came to be.
Well, Blair, I had an account back in the day when I was selling in technology. 20th Century Fox Studios was one of my accounts. And so as I'm traveling back and forth on the studio lot, I had about 5 different accounts back then. LA Law was one of them, and Blair was one of the stars on the show.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's how we met. And I would sit and watch them film, and after they get through with action camera rolling, we'd get together and talk communications. And I had about 4 or 5 different accounts on the lot at the time, but that's when we became friends. And fast forward 10 years later, Motorola had put me on the cover of a magazine called Who Do the Hollywood Stars Turn To for Communications? And it circulated. I stapled my business card to that, and it went viral all in the Hollywood industry. I never set out to get in the Hollywood industry, but it just happened that way. And one of Blair's bodyguards, or body double rather, saw my article, and he reached out to Blair, and Blair said, I remember that guy. So let's get him. We need some communications here. And that's how he reached out. And we've been friends ever since, over 25 plus years. So he's really a down to earth and one of the best actors. Just incredible, to see him play Othello down at the Golden Globe down in San Diego, at the Old Globe down in San Diego. And, he's a true master of his craft and really a great friend.
So is that one of the pieces that was easier for you, creating this and going through this author's journey? Was that one of those easy ones of like, I've got Blair, I know I'm going to use him someplace, or was that kind of a surprise, an afterthought? How did that pop in?
Well, I didn't want to overexpose him, but at the same time, I wanted to always show respect and gratitude and be humble about it. But it really worked out really well that he's very supportive of me and my mom and my family. And we got to know each other on a personal level. And we were able to share different stories and best practices and just have a good conversation, man, meaningful conversation away from the business side, more on the personal side.
Let's go now to your story, because the book is for other people, but you use your story to bridge the gap to help other people. What was it like to put a lot of yourself in there? Was there a struggle of too much, too little? How much do I reveal?
Good question. I tell you, I put it all out there pretty much, and just kind of put out there what I was going through during that period in time of my life. Obviously, there were some things I probably didn't want to touch on that were more personal, because I wanted the book to be more inspirational. I wanted to be more motivational. I wanted the book is really for people that are dreamers and, believe that they can make it. I wanted to be an inspiration to others. I wanted it to be a positive book, something that they can take with them for years to come, because I believe in positivity. And I believe that you can make anything out of life, that you can make it if you just believe that you can do it. And we all stumble. I've fallen down many times over the years, and I just get back up and just keep running the race of life, man. That's really what it's all about. And that's what I wanted to, come across in the book.
So who is this book for?
Well, I tell you, it's great that you said it's a 13-year-old girl did a term paper on my book and put it on LinkedIn, and I got over 5,000 or so likes.
Whoa.
A 70-year-old man, was retired, enjoying the fruits of his labor, reached out to me and said, Glenn, after reading your book, you inspired me to get back into the community. But the most touching story of them all was a lady from my hometown reached out to me, Rich, and she said, Glenn, COVID's got me down, 20 pounds overweight, ready to divorce my husband. And she said, I was actually ready to give up on life. And she said, but after reading your book, I reconciled with my husband. I'm back in the gym now, and I got a whole new purpose for living. So if I never sell another book, Rich, I fulfill my purpose of making the difference in the life of someone else.
Well, and maybe that's one of the distinctions here which we make, because a lot of our conversation goes about sales, marketing, sales, and sales. The book industry has changed. It's a lead magnet. It's a brand magnet now. It's used in a different way. And to hear you say that's one of the most satisfying things. Is it about the book sales anymore for you? Or is it about, like you said, the inspirational and hopeful message?
Well, we always want to have book sales. Obviously, we're in that business, right? To sell
Right.
books. But I tell you, touching someone's life to me is really what it's all about, making the difference in someone's life. Because you never know what one little thing that you can do that could be a major impact in the life of someone else. And so that's been my focus, not only with the book, but it's also been my focus with life. And that's what I've done all my life, even in sales. I love sales, but it wasn't so much about the sell. It was about helping someone, making a difference in their business and seeing them flourish and seeing them grow, and then be able to look back and see that you had a little bit of part of that. It's really satisfying and very gratifying, and I'm very blessed and grateful for those opportunities.
For those streaming along today, if you have a question, drop it in the chat. We would love to have your question with Glenn here as we continue on with our conversation. Don't forget, we are going to have some calendar events. The NSA has some amazing things coming up this week and the next several months. We're going to plug that in here as well. But we're talking with Glenn and the art of speaking into existence. That title alone, was there much discussion on the title, or was that pretty much set in stone early on that was going to be it?
That title came to me at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was thinking about, what can I, have a title that would resonate, but something that just would speak to my soul. Because if it spoke to me, I felt like it would speak to others, because I was speaking from my heart. And I knew about the power of life and death is in the power of the tongue. And I know that's a biblical statement,
Yep.
and it's part of my faith and manifesting and believing that you can make it and so forth. So that title really came through me in a dream. And I believe without a shadow of doubt that it came from God. And I'm very blessed and honored that spirit came through me, and I was able to, that title just resonated really well. So I was very honored to
Well,
have
and
the
again,
spirit.
your book is sprinkled with principles, beliefs, attitudes. You put tools in there for people to learn and go. What category is this book? Is it inspirational? Is it motivational? Is it spiritual? What category would you label this?
I would label it as universal, that it covers everyone. Doesn't matter what faith you have or what you believe in. Doesn't matter, what your belief system is. It's about what's inside your heart, what's inside your soul. What is it that you can do to make a difference in the life of someone else? I have friends of all walks of life, and I have friends of all different faiths, and I respect them and they respect me. And that's the most important thing, is that you respect each other where you're at in life. But it is important, I believe, to believe in something or someone that's bigger than yourself.
And I ask that question because people are looking at genres. They're going through Amazon. They're clicking on buttons and they want to know the right genre they're looking for. Was there ever a discussion with you, your editors, your team at all to say, we should label it this way, we should go that direction? Or did you intentionally really say, it's going to be down the middle here?
I told them it's right down the middle, because you can't put a person in a box. You can't put anyone in a box. I've never lived my life in a box. I've always thought outside of the box. When everyone goes right, Glenn Bowie goes left. When everyone goes left, Glenn Bowie goes right. I don't follow the crowd. I've never been that way. Even as a kid, I always like to be someone who doesn't follow trends. I like to think of myself as a trend setter, not a trend follower. And sometimes you have to walk alone.
I don't think there is a box, Glenn. There is no box. And I think our discussion has kind of proven that a little bit, that you've gone that route. I'm going to let you pause. We're going to come back to let you have some final words here, but I do want to share with you some of these exciting things coming up with the National Speakers Association. Some big stuff going on this week here. Of course, the Thrive 2023 main stage recordings. We just had Thrive. They're available now for you to watch. You can get them, and access to those recordings will be fading away and going into the digital vault for members on May 19th. So if you're part of the NSA and if you want to get access to those main stage recordings, I was there. Amazing, amazing speakers. You want to get a hold of that, check out NSA. Also, Wednesday, April 19th, we are going to have Behind the Stage. That's tomorrow. And Dr. Del Toro will be my guest, Del Toro McNeil II. And we're going to talk about his upcoming keynote at our 50-year anniversary of Influence. He's going to be talking about the transformational power of the experiential keynote. He's going to give us a little insights, give us a little hints about what's going on. You don't want to miss it. 5 p.m. We'll be streaming on many platforms right here in this group once again. Also, we have our webinar coming up, The Bold Haas. It's going to be coming up on Thursday, April 20th, right around the corner as well. That's 9 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that's going to be about a year-long, how to create 12 months of recurring revenue and reach every speaking engagement. So it's about reaching, growing revenue. You're going to love all that going on. Angela Ruers is going to be hosting that. And then on Thursday, April 27th, we do come back again with the virtual open mic. May 1st, the Cabot Award nominations deadline. So if you're going to submit or know one that you want to help submit, do that by May 1st. And finally, to wrap up our big announcements, 50-year anniversary, Influence 2023, July 15th through the 17th. We will be in Orlando as a Rosen Shingle Creek. And again, prices are going to increase May 1st. Prices will go up. Get your hotel, get your airlines, book it and join us. We will be there, and we're going to have fun doing interviews and conversation with a lot of amazing people at Influence 2023 as we celebrate 50 years of the National Speakers Association. Now back to Glenn. And Glenn, as we're winding down a little bit, what would be some of the biggest helps you could give everyone here today on this author book journey that you've gone through? What would be some great takeaways for everybody?
I would say just get started. Uh, you know, don't try to, you know, perfect it right away. Just get your story out. I think the key is just to keep the flow going consistently. Set some time aside. You know, whether it's a couple hours a day or whenever there's that quiet time. I started writing after 11 o'clock at night because that was the quiet time, and I just felt like that was the time when I could really focus and so forth. But I think the biggest thing is just get it out there, uh, start an outline, you know, visualize what your chapters are going to be, you know, because things will change along the way. But most importantly, it's just getting started.
When it comes to that whole process, would you say write it down, handwrite? Would you say audio tape it? Would you say whiteboard it, yellow pad it? What do you think are some of the best easiest ways to just start journaling it out of you?
Sure. I would say a combination of both, because if you're in the car driving and an idea might come to you, so you might want to speak into your recorder. You know, when you get home, you want to put it on your tablet and just start jotting notes down. And then you go back and refresh at the end of the day and take a look at it, see where that might fit in. Or think of a cool story or a story that would resonate with the audience, that would keep them going. Because what was the most important thing for me, Rich, was at the end of each chapter, my main focus was I wanted the ending to make them want to turn the next page. You want them to keep turning the page as you're writing. You know, you want to finish that page to get them to turn to the next one. That was really my main focus, was to put something in there at the end there that would get them to turn.
So did you do that with cliffhangers, storytelling? How did you do it to have them chomping at the bit to continue on? What was your mode of apparatus there?
Well, sometimes you save the best for last, you know, in the writing process for me was. And that was at the end of each chapter. I tried to save the best for the beginning and the ending. I think is what people really remember the most. And that was my key, was make sure I had a strong beginning and a strong ending of each chapter. And then everything else could kind of fluctuate a little bit. That would tie in.
Two more questions here, but
Sure.
one, you launched during pandemic. You were writing, producing, your book came out during pandemic. A lot of people failed to launch. They really struggled. Any advice for people to have a book that failed to launch, that didn't go the right way they were hoping for?
Yeah, revisit it, you know, and share it, you know, add another chapter and talk about it. You know, get it out, because you never know. There could be something else inside of you that could spur another great chapter, or could spur something within the chapters that you've already written that you could go back and, you know, add some more things in there that can spice it up a little bit or spruce it up a little bit. So those are the keys of just never giving up.
And finally, does Glenn Bowie have another book in his heart, mind, soul?
Glenn Bowie is working on it right now. Yeah, there's another one on the works. So I'm really excited about it, and can't wait to get it done. But I'm going to take my time and just go with the flow and just let it flow naturally. And we'll see what happens.
Well, Glenn, thanks for being here with us tonight. We did drop in the chat all your social media. So those tracking along here tonight, live or on recording, make sure you check out the social media. We'll also add more of that back into the comments. Final statements, comments from you here tonight, Glenn?
Well, all I can say is that the book, The Art of Speaking Into Existence, is about life lessons learned along the way. And that's what really life is really all about, is learning as you go. And never give up. Believe in yourself that you can make it. But most importantly, you must be in action to make something happen.
Glenn Bowie, thanks for being with us here tonight. And again, he is the founder, CEO of Glenn Bowie Speaks, and he's got 30 years of sales experience and wireless communication. Learn more about him and Glenn Bowie Speaks Incorporated. That's going to do it for our tonight here with you on the National Speakers Association.